You wake up next to someone who loves you. Your kids are in the next room. Your phone has dozens of unread messages from friends. And yet, you feel completely alone. Like nobody really sees you. Nobody gets it. If this sounds familiar, you're not crazy. And you're definitely not the only one. There's something Alan Watts understood about loneliness that most people miss entirely. And once you see it, everything changes. If you enjoy the content of my channel, for those of you who have seen my first videos, please feel free to share your suggestions for improvement and topics you'd like me to cover regarding relationships, drawing on lessons learned from my family experience. Your opinions on Alan Watts, relationships, and other subjects are welcome. I read all the comments. Look, we've been sold this idea our whole lives. Find the right person. Build a family. Surround yourself with people. And loneliness, that'll just disappear. But here's what nobody tells you. Some of the loneliest people on the planet are married. They're parents. They're constantly surrounded by others. So what's going on? Why does it feel like there's this wall between you and everyone else? Even the people who are supposed to know you best. Alan Watts spent decades exploring this exact question. And what he discovered goes way deeper than just, you need better communication. Or, you should express yourself more. This is about something fundamental. Something most of us don't even realize we're dealing with. Here's the thing. You give and you give and you give. You show up for your partner. You sacrifice for your kids. You're there for your friends. And somewhere along the way, you started feeling invisible. Like you're playing a role in everyone else's life. But nobody's really seeing you. The actual you. The person behind all those roles. Maybe you're a parent who feels more like a service provider than a human being. Wake up. Make breakfast. Drive to school. Work. Dinner. Homework. Bedtime. Repeat. And your partner? They're right there. But it's like your ship's passing in the night. You talk about logistics. Bills. Schedules. But when's the last time someone asked how you're really doing? When's the last time someone saw that part of you that feels stuck? Or maybe you're single and you're tired of people saying, you just need to find someone. Because you've tried, you've dated, you've put yourself out there. But every connection feels surface level. Like you're performing a version of yourself that you think others want to see. And the real you, that person stays hidden, protected, alone. Here's what makes this type of loneliness so brutal. It's invisible. You can't complain about it without sounding ungrateful. You have people in your life. You should be happy. So you smile. You keep going. And that feeling of isolation, it grows. It turns into resentment, bitterness, a quiet desperation that you can't quite name. And here's where it gets really twisted. The more you try to fix it by seeking validation from others, the worse it gets. You do more. You try harder. You bend yourself into shapes you think others want. And the loneliness just deepens. Because now you're not just alone. You're alone while pretending to be someone you're not. So what did Alan Watts see that we're missing? He talked about this idea of the skin-encapsulated ego. Sounds complicated, but stay with me. From the moment we're born, we're taught that we're separate. You are you. I am me. We're individual beings. Isolated units moving through the world. Your thoughts are yours. Your feelings are yours. And everyone else? They're on their own islands too. This seems obvious, right? But what said this is the root of the problem? This feeling of being a separate self, cut off from everything else, is an illusion. And it's an illusion that creates suffering. Think about it this way. When you feel lonely, what are you actually feeling? You're feeling separate, disconnected. Like there's you in here, and then there's the rest of the world out there. And no matter how hard you try, you can't quite bridge that gap. You can't make someone truly understand what it's like to be you, to feel what you feel, to see what you see. But here's what Watts would say. That gap, it was never real to begin with. Now, before you think this is some abstract philosophy that doesn't apply to your actual life, let me break this down. Because this has everything to do with why you feel alone even when you're surrounded by people who love you. When you're constantly living from this place of, I am a separate self, you're always performing, always managing, always trying to get something from the outside world to complete you, to validate you. to make you feel less alone. Your partner needs to say the right thing. Your kids need to appreciate you. Your friends need to check in on you. And when they don't, you feel abandoned, unseen, alone. But what if the problem isn't that others aren't seeing you? What if the problem is that you're looking for yourself in the wrong place? What's talked about how we spend our entire lives trying to find ourselves through external means, through relationships, through achievements, through the opinions of others. We're constantly asking the world to tell us who we are, to confirm our existence, to prove that we matter. And relationships, they become transactional. I give you this, you give me that. I show up for you, you better show up for me. I express love this way, so you should express it that way. We turn the people closest to us into mirrors, and when they don't reflect back what we need to see, we feel betrayed, lonely, like we're in it alone. Parents especially fall into this trap. You pour everything into your kids, your time, your energy, your identity, and somewhere deep down, there's this expectation that they'll appreciate it, that they'll see your sacrifice, that they'll make it all worth it. But kids don't work that way. They're not designed to validate their parents. They're designed to grow up and leave. And when you base your sense of self on being needed by them, you're setting yourself up for a devastating kind of loneliness. What's interpretation? Same thing in romantic relationships. You meet someone. The connection feels incredible. They see you. They get you. Finally, someone who understands. But over time, that fades. They can't read your mind anymore. They don't anticipate your needs. They're dealing with their own stuff. And suddenly you're back to feeling alone. Like you made a mistake. Like this isn't the right person after all. But the pattern repeats. Because the issue isn't the person. It's the expectation that another person can complete you. That another person can fill that void. So what's the alternative? What was what's actually pointing to? He said the answer is not in seeking less connection or in becoming some isolated hermit. The answer is in recognizing that the separate self you think you are is not the whole picture. You are not just this individual person with these specific thoughts and feelings and experiences. You are also the awareness behind all of that. You are the space in which life happens. And that awareness, it's the same awareness in everyone else. This isn't some mystical woo-woo idea. This is practical. When you stop identifying so heavily with your personal story, with your roles, with your needs and desires, something shifts. You stop needing others to complete you. You stop needing them to see you in a specific way. You stop needing them to fill a void. And paradoxically, that's when real connection becomes possible. Because now you're not relating to others from a place of need. You're not desperately seeking validation or understanding. You're simply present. And presence is what real connection actually is. Not two separate selves trying to bridge a gap, but two expressions of the same underlying awareness recognizing itself. Let me give you a concrete example. You're having a hard day. You're stressed. You're overwhelmed. You want your partner to notice, to ask what's wrong, to comfort you. But they don't. They're distracted with their own stuff. And you feel alone, abandoned, like they don't care. But what if you stopped waiting for them to notice? What if you simply allowed yourself to feel what you're feeling without needing them to fix it or acknowledge it? What if you recognized that your worth doesn't depend on whether someone sees your struggle? This doesn't mean you don't communicate. It doesn't mean you become some stoic robot. It means you communicate from a place of wholeness rather than need. You might say, hey, I'm having a rough day, not as a demand for comfort, but as a simple sharing of your experience. And if they can meet you there, great. If they can't right now, that's okay too. Because you're not dependent on their response to feel okay. This is what's meant by internal fulfillment. It's not about becoming self-sufficient in the sense that you don't need anyone. It's about recognizing that your fundamental okayness doesn't come from external sources. It comes from recognizing what you actually are beneath all the stories and roles and identities. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop needing people to complete you, you actually experience them more fully. You're not filtering everything through. What does this mean about me? You're not keeping score. You're not waiting for them to say or do the right thing. You're just there, present, open, and that presence is what people actually respond to. That's what creates real intimacy. Think about the people you feel most connected to. It's rarely the people who need something from you. It's the people who are comfortable in themselves, who aren't constantly seeking validation, who can be present without agenda. That's what draws us to others, that quality of presence, of wholeness. But we can't experience that in others if we're not cultivating it in ourselves. So how do you actually do this? How do you move from feeling desperately alone to experiencing internal fulfillment? It starts with noticing. Notice how often you're seeking yourself outside yourself. Notice when you're waiting for someone to validate you, to see you, to make you feel less alone. Notice when you're performing a role instead of simply being. Notice when you're keeping score in relationships, when you're feeling resentful that others aren't giving you what you think you need. Just notice. Don't judge it. Don't try to fix it. Just see it clearly. Because when you see the pattern, it starts to lose its grip. You start to recognize that the separate self you've been defending and trying to complete is not the whole truth. It's a story, a useful story in some ways, but not the deepest truth of what you are. The second step is to stop waiting for the perfect conditions to feel okay. This is huge. We tell ourselves, I'll feel connected when my partner does X, or I'll feel fulfilled when my kids appreciate me, or I'll feel less alone when I find the right person. But those are conditions you're placing on your own peace. And as long as you do that, you're trapped. Because external conditions are always changing. People are always disappointing us in small ways. Life is always not quite what we want it to be. So what if you decided to feel okay now? Not because everything is perfect. Not because all your needs are being met. But because your fundamental okayness doesn't depend on circumstances. It's already here. It's what you are beneath all the noise. This doesn't mean you become passive. It doesn't mean you stop having boundaries or stop asking for what you need. It means you do those things from a place of wholeness rather than desperation. And the third step is to practice presence. Not thinking about the past or future. Not getting lost in stories about who you are or what you need. Just being here. Now. Fully. Whether you're with someone or alone. Whether you're having a good day or a terrible one. Because loneliness happens in the gap between what is and what you think should be. When you're fully present with what is, without resistance, without needing it to be different, that gap disappears. And in its absence, there's a quality of connection that doesn't depend on circumstances. A connection to life itself, to the present moment, to the awareness that you actually are. Let's put it this way. You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. You're not a separate fragment trying to find other fragments to feel complete. You are an expression of the whole thing, and so is everyone else. When you see that, the quality of aloneness changes. You might still be by yourself. You might still have moments of feeling disconnected from others, but there's a deeper recognition that you are never actually separate from the totality of what is. Here's the moment where it all clicks. The loneliness you've been feeling isn't because nobody understands you. It's because you've been trying to find yourself in the understanding of others. You've been looking for completion in places that can never provide it. Not because those people don't love you. Not because you're in the wrong relationship or situation. But because the separate self you think you are is not the whole picture. And the moment you stop seeking yourself outside yourself, everything changes. You stop needing your partner to be different. You stop needing your kids to appreciate you in specific ways. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you from loneliness because you recognize that the connection you've been seeking has been here all along. Not in others completing you, but in the recognition of what you actually are beneath all the roles and stories and needs. This is what internal fulfillment actually means. Not that you don't need connection. Not that relationships don't matter, but that your fundamental sense of wholeness doesn't depend on external validation. And from that place of wholeness, real connection becomes possible. Not two incomplete people trying to complete each other, but two whole beings sharing presence, sharing life, without the desperate need for it to be something other than what it is. So let's bring this back down to earth. You feel alone even when you're loved because you've been taught to experience yourself as separate, as an isolated self that needs others to feel complete. And that creates a kind of loneliness that no amount of external connection can fix. Because the problem isn't lack of connection, it's the illusion of separation. Internal fulfillment doesn't mean becoming isolated or self-sufficient in some cold way. It means recognizing that your worth, your wholeness, your fundamental okayness doesn't come from outside. It's what you are. And when you stop looking for yourself in the opinions and actions of others, you become truly available for real connection. The kind that doesn't depend on people being a certain way or giving you what you think you need. Your loneliness is not a problem to fix. It's a signal, a pointer, showing you where you're still seeking yourself outside yourself, where you're still waiting for conditions to be right before you allow yourself to feel whole. And when you stop waiting, when you recognize what you actually are beneath all the noise, the quality of loneliness transforms. You might still experience moments of feeling separate, but there's a deeper current underneath, a recognition that you're an expression of the whole thing, and so is everyone else. That's what Alan Watts understood, and that's what changes everything. If this landed for you, there's more where this came from.